I'll be able to hang in there.
What was the injury?
My knee.
The Green Bay Packers had a roller coaster of a season that I would say ultimately fell short of expectations and ended in failure. Throughout the preseason, I honestly did not have that high of expectations for this team. They ended the 2024 season losing 3 of their last 5 regular season games and then lost in the playoffs with the offense barely doing anything. They didn't make any high-profile additions in free agency, and they kept players that I don't think were very good. I originally thought they'd probably win 10 games and get dropped off in the wildcard round yet again. But then, the Micah Parsons trade happened. This completely changed my outlook of the season, as they acquired one of the best players in the entire league who is still only 26 years old. If the league did a redraft, I am confident he would go in the top 5 or so players, and because of this, I ended up changing my prediction from a 10 or so win team to one that I thought could win like 13 games. And the Packers started off hot with a dominant defensive performance over a team that swept the Packers last year and won 14 games. The defense basically only gave up 6 points in this game, and the offense did enough, scoring 27. Micah Parsons only played a limited number of snaps, but it was absolutely electric when he was on the field. He gave the entire team such an energy boost. Green Bay looked like a premier team and quickly became one that could legitimately win the Super Bowl. And they followed it up with another dominant performance over the Washington Commanders, a team who went to the NFC Championship game a year prior and had the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year in at quarterback. The defense held the Commanders to 18 points, with some of those coming in garbage time, and the offense scored 27 once again, which became a theme for them early in the year. After this game, I really thought the Super Bowl was possible. They had some of the best Super Bowl odds on the sports books too. This wasn't just hopeful fans. Vegas thought they were a legit elite team through 2 games. But unfortunately, that honeymoon phase ended there. The Packers traveled to Cleveland in Week 3 in what some people called a trap game. Now, I actually argued against this because at the time, I thought the team was locked in. I thought the Parsons acquisition helped this team get serious and ready to play each week. But I was wrong. This absolutely was a trap game. The defense did their job as they basically only gave up 6 points, but the offense was atrocious, only scoring 10, and Love had a bad interception setting up a Browns touchdown. Then, to make matters worse, Brandon McManus's kick was blocked, essentially losing the game for them, and the Packers dropped to 2-1. Alright, fine. Trap game loss, get it out of the system, and let's head to Jerry's World on Sunday Night Football, a place where the Packers have never lost. Well, instead of the offense letting them down, this time it was the defense. They gave up 40 points, but really only 38 because the Packers had a blocked extra point return for 2 points. A 3-point swing in a game that ended in a tie. Back-to-back weeks of terrible special teams. Again, the defense got dismantled by Dak Prescott, and Keyshawn Nixon's effort, or lack of effort, was put on display for the world to see. Ultimately, the Packers had a chance to win it in overtime, but poor time management by the head coach made them settle for a tie. The Super Bowl hopes were quickly going away by this point in the season. They went into the bye 2-1-1, whereas I thought they'd be 4-0 at this point, and honestly, they should have been. Coming out of the bye, they got Joe Flacco for the second time in the last 3 games. The Packers won this game 27-18, once again scoring 27, but I think I and a lot of fans wanted a more dominant performance, especially coming off the last 2 games. Now, it's hard to win in the NFL, so obviously a win is great, but this didn't feel like a Super Bowl team anymore. They then traveled to Arizona in Week 7, and it was a very similar story as the Bengals game. They won 27-23, but you would have liked a better performance against these inferior teams. It's even harder to win on the road in the NFL, so good on them for improving to 4-1-1, but I still don't think fans were thinking Super Bowl at this point, which is obviously the goal. Now, in terms of expectations, I think an NFC Championship game appearance was necessary for this team, and through 7 weeks, I don't think they were a top 2 team in the conference. In Week 8, the Packers went to Pittsburgh to take on Aaron Rodgers for the very first time. They had a horrible first half, going into the break down 16-7 after missing a field goal as the first half expired. But they had a phenomenal second half, outscoring the Steelers 28-9. And this was the first time since Week 2 that the Packers looked like a truly dominant team. They improved to 5-1-1 and seemed to be trending upward. However, that upward trend immediately stopped as the Packers lost at home to the Carolina Panthers. The offense and special teams were ugly once again. The defense only gave up 16 points, but they did allow 163 rushing yards and gave up long time-consuming drives. Now, this was an automatic win when you looked at the schedule before the season, but they lost in embarrassing fashion, and they had the Super Bowl champs coming into town next week. In my predictions, I had the Packers at 8-0 in this point, and if you reverse 3 plays, all having to do with special teams, the blocked kick in Cleveland, the blocked extra point in Dallas, and the missed field goal against the Panthers, the Packers probably would have been 8-0, just inexcusable, and the special teams coordinator is still employed heading into the 2026 season. In Week 10, the Packers lose at home on Monday Night Football to the reigning champion Eagles, another game where the offense was just missing, only scoring 7 points. The defense was great, holding the Eagles to just 10, but the offense obviously did not do enough, a recurring theme at this point in the year. Now, this was the first loss I gave the Packers in my predictions, but I had them at 8-1, and they were actually 5-3-1. The Packers then took on the Giants in MetLife Stadium, and similar to the Cardinals game, this should have been an easy win. It was a lot closer than I would have liked, but they did get back into the win column heading back to Green Bay. In Week 12, they hosted the Vikings for their first matchup of the season. The defense was dominant, only giving up 6 points. The offense could have been better with a ton of conservative play calling, especially in the second half, but they still scored 23 and won by 17. I would have liked to see them push 30 points though. But again, a win is a win, and they are now 7-3-1, whereas I had them at 9-2. I actually predicted a loss here in what I thought would have been a weird divisional game. The Packers then took on the Lions for the second time of the season, and this time it was on Thanksgiving Day. This was just a flat-out amazing win. Matt LaFleur and the offense were aggressive, and it paid off with a big-time divisional win and a sweep of the Lions. This took the Packers to 8-3-1, and at this point in the season, I had them at 9-3 in my predictions, so pretty spot on. In Week 14, the Packers had their third straight divisional game, and this was the first of 2 against the Bears in a 13-day span, and it came down to the final play. Keyshawn Nixon made the play of his life, icing the game and securing the Packers' 4th straight win to improve to 9-3-1. The offense struggled in the second half, forcing the defense to be on the field for long stretches, but both sides barely did enough to secure the win. And the Bears were the number 1 seed at the time, so this is another big win for this Packers team. Something a lot different this season than the last season, as they were able to win these big games, but they also lost to teams that they shouldn't have. But in Week 15, everything changed. The Packers were up 9 with the ball in the third quarter against the eventual AFC runner-ups, the Denver Broncos. Matt LaFleur chose to take a shot, and the pass was picked off by the former Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain, and Christian Watson got injured on the play. Now, I have absolutely no issue with this play call. For some reason, fans online hate it. And what I have to say in response is that you cannot complain about the Packers not putting teams away while also complaining about this play call. Those are mutually exclusive statements. I want to be able to put teams away, and this was a great opportunity to do so. Unfortunately, Jordan Love underthrew the ball just slightly, and it didn't go the Packers' way. Then, not much later, Micah Parsons tore his ACL, which really hurt the team and the defense. They gave up 20 second-half points, and the Packers dropped this game, falling to 9-4-1. In my predictions, I actually had them at 10-4, so still pretty accurate. Green Bay then got the Bears for the second time in 3 weeks in a game in which Jordan Love suffered a concussion early, and they ended up choking away a 10-point lead with only a few minutes left in the game. Romeo Doubs failed to secure an onside kick, the offense failed a 4th and 1 in overtime, and Keyshawn Nixon got dunked on to end the game. An absolutely killer loss that essentially ended their NFC North hopes. Jordan Love missed the following week with the concussion, as Derrick Henry and the Ravens came into town. Tyler Huntley actually started this game too, with Lamar Jackson injured. But unfortunately, it didn't matter who was in at quarterback for the Ravens, as they ran for over 300 yards at Lambeau Field. In fact, Derrick Henry's 216 rushing yards was the most by any visiting player in Lambeau Field history. Now, Malik Willis was great in this game. He threw for 288 yards and ran for another 60, accounting for 3 total touchdowns. Though he too suffered an injury, and Bo Melton dropped Clayton Tune's first pass attempt, resulting in an interception, essentially ending the game. The Packers dropped to 9-6-1, whereas I had them at 12-4. Thanks to the Vikings' victory over the Lions on Christmas Day, the Packers' Week 18 game did not matter as they were locked into the 7th seed, so I won't even talk about the season finale, a game in which they had no intention of winning. The Packers end the season 9-7-1, whereas I had them winning 12 to 13 games, which was very possible. A 10-point blown lead versus the Browns and a 3-point loss, a 13-point blown lead versus the Cowboys and a tie, a 9-point blown lead versus the Broncos and an 8-point loss, and a 10-point blown lead versus the Bears and a 6-point overtime loss. They also lost by 3 to the Panthers and Eagles at home. Now, a great team might go 6-0 in these games, and all of a sudden you're 15-2. Even if they go 3-3 in these, they win 12 games on the season, they win the NFC North, and they are the number 2 seed. Instead, they are the number 7 seed playing on the road in the playoffs. Though this wildcard matchup was against a team that they pretty much dominated this year. And they dominated them again in the first half, jumping out to a 21-3 lead. However, the Bears adjusted in the second half, sending more pressure, and the Packers' offensive line couldn't handle it. Matt LaFleur had no response, and the offense went stagnant. The defense, without Parsons and Wyatt, just couldn't hold up and let the Bears back into the game, and Brandon McManus missed multiple kicks, pretty much costing them the win. An all-time collapse and another blown double-digit lead, and this time it was 18 points. And the fact that this happened so often this year is either a leadership issue or a coaching issue or both. And I personally think it is both. I've been very critical of Matt LaFleur, so I won't get more into it, but I also think as the youngest team in the league, they have no real leaders, which includes the head coach. I think they would benefit from some vocal veteran players. It's no secret that the Packers' special teams were atrocious all year too, from a ton of missed field goals to a failure to recover an onside kick, to long punt returns in the playoffs. Just a nightmare year for this unit, and the highest paid special teams coordinator will be back next year. I really think the NFC Championship game was the minimum expectations for this team coming off the last 2 seasons and the acquisition of Micah Parsons. So because of this, like I mentioned at the start of the video, I think this season was a failure. Now I know injuries do not excuse these blown leads, but they do impact overall expectations for the team. The Packers had the 5th most amount of cap hit on IR by the end of the season. The 49ers had the 6th most, and every other playoff team was in the bottom 12. The 2 Super Bowl teams were in the bottom 4. You need your preferred starters to stay healthy. You need your $45 million edge to stay healthy. You need your only good defensive tackle to stay healthy. You need your stud tight end to stay healthy. And you need your offensive line to stay healthy. The Packers got pretty unlucky this year when it came to injuries. I'm hoping that the team makes some improvements in the offseason. They are over the cap now, but they have the flexibility to create cap space and sign a free agent or 2. So hopefully free agency works out better this year than last year. I am very excited to see Micah and Tucker back next season, though I do remain cautiously optimistic due to the coaching staff.